contentious, carrying forward losses, business carrying forward losses consecutively. And we've noted that this proposal has been brought back. However, it is worth noting that this is necessary. Sometimes companies come up with creative ways of minimizing their taxes. And although this has been proposed, they're saying 7 years. We are saying this should be 5 years. In 2015-2016, URA noted that there was companies carried forward losses, and it was about 13.8 trillion, and that's a lot of money compared to the other sectors which are lagging behind. And the fact that companies are allowed to keep their books of accounts 5 years, so I think we should do that. Then URA can audit. We have concerns on a number of them under the Income Tax Act. Where there's a section 13(5)(b) requires local authorities, government institutions, or regulatory bodies to only issue licenses to only those persons or individuals that have TINs. Those are the tax identification numbers. But you know, in Uganda, we still have challenges. Although we are welcoming this proposal, we note that before someone gets a TIN or a license, sometimes they do not ask for a tax clearance certificate. I don't know if you've engaged in businesses before. So there's a challenge, and we believe that in the villages there have been challenges, especially with local governments. I know they are mandated to have TINs, but URA needs to first put up systems in place. And we've proposed that maybe they can have an application that we can link, that before local governments say issue out a license, they can verify. Another proposal under the Income Tax Act, no, I'll go straight to VAT. Section 5(2) of the Principal Act, which require persons designated to collect withholding tax remit 6% of the taxable value, referred to in sections 21 and 23 to URA. Now, we as the Tax Justice Alliance welcome this proposal, but however, we note that in the past there's been a challenge when it comes to VAT compliance. So there's always a gap between the buyer figures and the seller figures. So you find when URA comes to reconcile, there are different figures. So
you keep mentioning something about systems.
Yeah.
Is it the systems that are failing? Because if all these proposals, perhaps they're taken up, it goes back to the systems. Who do we put in place that we say, if this actually says we go with it, can we be guaranteed that the systems will go ahead to make sure this all comes through?
Okay, I think systems is not just one thing. Systems has the people, you have the technology. So we have to have the zeal to connect. If people are performing, they have the funds, we have the technology, and we have the skills at the end of the day, which we all need to link together. And the political will.
Yes, there's also that as well.
Yeah. So about this proposal, we noted that in the past there's been a VAT compliance gap, low compliant figures, but also we are recommending that URA should have an easy and continuous way of monitoring all these VAT claims. Then the other observation, I think, which is interesting, is also about second schedule and the third schedule to provide for exemption and zero rating, the supply of drugs and medicines, and the supply of drugs and medicines manufactured in Uganda, respectively.
Right. You know, it's interesting to see that, you know what, every time and again we see proposals being taken up. Let's just be factual. When we had this conversation, I remember when we had the framework, we know that our current debt stands at 41 trillion, point something trillion, all right? And the current, you know, financial year, we are looking at a budget of 39.5,
almost,
of course, and we hope that domestically will contribute 20 million, all right? 20 trillion trillion, beg your pardon, on the same. That brings us to a deficit of about 19.5 trillion. Already we are talking about a majority who are in the SME sector, who are crying foul, saying that we are not even given, tax holidays, so to speak. Operating, businesses in Uganda is hard, so to speak. So over and above, of course, having, VAT proposals, tax amendment proposals here and there, what can be done? What ideally would you have done? We are caught up in this particular, just, how will I put it, a web of confusion. We really don't know. We already have debt of 41 point something trillion. We are already having a deficit of 19.5 trillion in the coming budget. So what should the government do? If time and again they propose, but here as CSOs we are bashing and saying that this is so harsh, how should we survive?
I think that is true. Of course, the debt burden is rising, and hope we don't have a debt trap going forward. And it's interesting that government keeps telling us that we've not yet reached the threshold of 50. They're telling us Kenya is above 50. So should we look at Kenya?
Here we focus on us.
38. And this figure, worryingly for me, my worry is, these figures are for June 2018. We are already in 2019. So I think maybe it's already maybe 46 in my, just making a wild guess.
Right.
But also going back to the fact that I know we need to borrow, but what is this money being used for? Do we have value for money at the end of the day? Citizens are not engaging in all these processes. I'll take you back to these tax policy proposals. Last year, there was, I think, a buzz in the country about social media tax, mobile money. But because this time the taxes, they're not feeding the pitch. It's not directly. It's like, it's business as usual. Until they pass them, then they'll come out and they start engaging. But also, government needs to put up an enabling environment for citizens, like SMEs that you're talking about, to operate. If they are giving all these tax incentives and the holidays, this is to the detriment of the economy.
Correct. And
also the domestic investors at the end of the day.
How much do we lose based on the tax holidays that government
I think it's
gives
about
every
1.2 of GDP currently in Uganda. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. And worryingly, government continues to pay. They make a commitment to pay taxes on behalf of these companies. Yet worldwide, research, I think we keep talking about this over and over again, that investors are not looking out for that.
Correct.
Infrastructure. So if you're talking about infrastructure, that investors need infrastructure, how do you then create a balance between the health sector and putting in place infrastructure? So when we talk about productive sectors, let us think about all these sectors, both the social services, but also the say health.
Yes. So when we talk about all these sectors and everyone being included, because at the end of the day, if we focus more on the investor and the SME, there also is other people who are being affected by this. So if we're going to say we're going to have a fair system within our country, what exactly would that be, without affecting the growth of the country?
When you say fair, I'll give a scenario, you're the rich, you're the poor. If I say 5%, if I impose a 5% tax on you, and you have, say, billions of money, that will be fair to you. You keep your balance. If I say I'm imposing 10%, I've imposed 5%, I'm imposing 10%, say on 200. That is not fair. It will be unfair to you, for you to be fair. But I think it goes back to how we see it in our context as the CRT and Taxes Alliance. We look at progressivity, that everyone should be paying their fair share on the amount that they have. We should all contribute in something small.
When you talk about us all contributing something small, one of the amendments is the cross-cutting amendments, where you want the fact that define a citizen as a natural person who is a citizen of a partner state of the East African community, or a company or a body of persons incorporated under the laws of a partner state of East African community. When we come down to that, what are we looking at exactly? And what do we hope to achieve?
We welcomed this proposal because we are integrating East Africa. Now we talk about tripartite. Before you know it, to be at the continental level. But we are saying that we should take it slow. Other countries are not like Uganda, right? And for Kenya, for instance, they are already developed. If they bring their goods here and they come, maybe they invest in Uganda, and someone in Uganda who is just starting up, who doesn't have a lot of capital, is also engaging the same business, they will run out of business because some of their products may be cheaper than ours. But also instances of dumping where you have maybe some goods that are not good. And we are proposing that Uganda should first think through this proposal, take a step back on passing it, but also we've noted that this will contradict some of the provisions that we have and the policies, like Build Uganda, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, but also the local content policy. So how do we want to see reconciliation of all these processes, speaking to each other, not only one? But also we note that when Ugandans say are investing in other countries, like in Tanzania, it's not very easy. In Uganda, getting a working permit to work in Kenya is a hassle. Most of the people cannot work there. But here in Uganda,
everyone is welcome.
Everyone is welcome. Yeah.
All right. You know, when you talk about, you know, matters to do with unfairness and trying to reach to that point whereby we are fair and we have a fair tax regime, we can't move away or shy away from the issue of capital flight. Capital flight, which of course, you know, favors them that are high and mighty, them that can take off their monies to safe haven, so to speak. So do you feel like the government has done enough? Well, we did see the president say that the only best way of us to fight capital flight is to ensure that this, you know, companies, you know, get into the stocks, you know, they also, you know, bring out the stocks, they play in the stock market so that, you know, the Ugandans can have a fair share of ownership of these particular companies. But is that enough? Is that enough? Already we're talking about us having these big dreams. Already we have a deficit. We are struggling on how to, you know, match that up, but still we are having financial hemorrhage. So how best can that be tackled?
Uganda is trying, like they're trying to revise double taxation agreements, Ministry of Finance. And as Siatini and the Alliance, we've closely given them feedback. They're now negotiating the DTA between Uganda and the Netherlands. But I think it goes beyond revising the policies that we have. Sometimes it's not only the companies, but we also see with individuals engaging in all these processes.
Correct.
Yes. So we need to have mechanisms of country trying to close all these loopholes. Some of these proposals carrying forward losses are also contributing to some of those the gaps. And broadly, when we talk about companies, investments, attracting foreign direct investments, right? That is where the issue is. Even though you have the DTAs, you're going to negotiate treaties or between agreements between, say, BDCO and and Uganda. And once we don't have access to some of these agreements as citizens, it becomes tricky. Now, like in this year's budget, government is going to pay off, is going to write off all the debts. It keeps accumulating them.
Correct.
Then it's paying them off. And some of them, those are some of the loopholes that government is also facilitating them in one way or another, but also companies are using creative means. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, a conversation is going out and saying that is you know, mandating or just putting a directive that, you know, companies need to be listed in the stock exchange, is that enough? You know, and so you clearly answered the question.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think so.
And where do we also put Ugandans when it comes to paying of taxes? Because when you talk about the systems, you could put all these things in place, but one way or another, we have a number of people who are still using VPN. Just that 200 shillings is becoming a struggle for them. They don't want to, because it goes back to the fact that they say there's all this corruption within the government, and then even a number of businesses are just saying we're just trying to make profit. All we need is profit. So the willingness of the citizenry to actually be a part of this and pay the taxes.
Citizens are willing to pay taxes, because I think the challenge we had before is most of our taxes are indirect, that some of them didn't know. I'll take you back that during the times of graduated tax, our parents keep telling us that people were proud.
Yes.
I'm proud taxpayer, I'm paying my taxes. But because they could also follow, I'm a taxpayer and I'm demanding for accountability. Now the gap is citizens they know they pay taxes, some indirectly, but there's a gap between what they need and what the government is providing. If you're talking about infrastructure and the health facilities where I go every day, there's no medicine, inadequate. Ideally, I'll go back and say I'll think twice about paying the taxes. So we're trying to tell government that citizens want to pay taxes, but they should be balancing, and they should continue demanding for accountability from their duty bearers at the local government level, national level, but also engaging with their leaders. This time in point, citizens still have a chance to participate in the tax processes. They can engage with their leaders before the tax proposals or bills are passed into law.
You know, when you talk of accountability, someone once said that, you know what, it has to be really tight and multifaceted. And speaking of, you know, the consequences of pretty much what the law says or stipulates with regards to, you know, them that are found guilty of embezzling, you know, public funds, do you feel there's need of that to be revised with regards to what the law says with regards to the punishment? Because someone was saying that, you know, putting these guys behind bars for just a few years is not
They
enough.
come out.
Exactly. What happened to, you know, recovering that particular lost property or money? So do you feel like there needs to be an amendment as soon as yesterday?
I think so, and that money should be returned back and reinvested into the economy. When you talk about accountability, I can give an accountability that you gave me 5 million. This is what I spent. This is what I used it for. I bought myself a car of 2 million. I bought some clothes, and that's it. So it's not about accountability only, but you have to be responsive to the needs of the citizens. So government should not only avail an accountability, but also look into the needs of what the citizens need.
But Regina, what then holds us back from these particular amendments? Because I think every day, Rita, we host guests and experts who say that this needs to be done, that needs to be done. What is holding us back from implementation?
I wouldn't be. I think it's the political will.
Okay.
Because I know that technocrats know all this, whatever we are talking about. But when it comes to implementation, it's another thing. That's why we still need to engage. The media have a role to play, civil society, even citizens. Imagine what we did for mobile money if citizens came on board and put the government to task. Okay, I'm not mobilizing everyone in a good way, in a positive way, positive engagement, to come and maybe fulfill what they need. That would be a change. But sometimes I think we relax and
As we speak of the relaxing, and as we wrap this up, actually at the beginning of this year there was the Fair Tax Monitor study released, and one of the things that they showed was also the fact that people don't know why I'm paying a tax. You know, the simple thing of I pay this tax. A number of people don't even know that maybe they're paying VAT. You know,
so they know, maybe they don't even the rates.
Yes, you have no idea when you go maybe to a restaurant and you believe, okay, this is my bill, but then there's this other bill that's also added to it. You know, just educating the citizen about the taxes they have to pay, why they have to pay them, sensitization of the public. Who steps in to do that?
That we as civil society, we've taken on that role to try to make citizens appreciate the importance of paying taxes, but also demanding for accountability. URA is also trying to play their part. They have tax education, I think, clinics and other players. But I think it has to be a concerted effort of everyone, especially government. For us, we only make a contribution. But if government comes out and shows people that, you know, this is how much you pay, and this is how your money is being used, I think we need to see more of that.
Okay.
And also the leaders at all different levels.
So it seems that each and every person within the system needs to be
Definitely.
present in the system.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to have issues.
Actively present.
So you perhaps who's still on VPN, how about you try and, just pay the OTT for the coming month? 6,000 Uganda shillings. As we wait on whether the proposals will be adopted or not, we continue to hope that as we step into the next financial year with a few months to it, a few things will change. And maybe we shall start to ask for accountability. Just maybe, just maybe. We have been joined by Regina Navuga. She is from Siatini, the program officer at Siatini. Thank you so much for taking time out to join us this morning. On your birthday. Happy birthday, Regina. Well, we're going to be taking a birthday. We need to get you a cake.
Yeah.
Let's get you to sing for Regina's birthday song. We're going to take a short break. We'll be returning with Take Note.
I challenge you to a dance-off.